On behalf of School of Management Studies, I am welcome all the learners to this session on human resource management. I am Dr. S. Subramanian, Professor and Director, School of Management Studies, Tamil Nadu Open University. I hope that this session will be giving insight about introduction to human resource management. First, we will start with the meaning of human resource management. HRM is a function of management concerned with hiring, motivating, and maintaining people in an organization. It is also one of the management functions like other functions called financial management, marketing management, operations management, and management information system. Whereas this HRM is focuses on people in the organization, but other functional areas are concentrating on other resources of the organization. We'll see a definition of human resource management, which is given by one Edwin B. Filippo. It is a very comprehensive definition given by Edwin Filippo. It is defined as planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of the procurement, development, compensation, integration, maintenance, and the separation of human resources to the end that individual, organizational, and societal objectives are accomplished. Here, very clearly indicated that we have to study already planning, organizing, directing, and control function under principles of management itself. So you have to keep in mind what are all the function under this planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. These are all the common function to procurement, development, and compensation, integration, maintenance, and the separation of human resource in the organization. These functions are under HRM, which is giving effective people or right people for the right job. These functions should satisfy the individual, organizational, and societal objectives also. We are going to see the function one by one under the scope of HRM. The first scope of HRM is employee training. Under employee training, we are going to enhance the competency of our own employee based on the appropriate training identification techniques or training need identification. So we have after identifying what's a gap between actual performance and required performance, we have to address that gap through various means of a training. Basically, the training are classified into two groups. One is on-the-job training, another one is on off-the-job training. Whenever we are talking about executives, it is called as a development. It is most of the time which is giving a behavioral enhancement under this development. Procurement is a very important aspect under employee hiring. This procurement consists of recruitment, manpower planning, recruitment, and selection. So we have to ensure right man for a right job under these three functions. The recruitment is a general. We have to motivate the potential incumbent to apply for the organizational position notified. After obtaining notification, after obtaining application from the potential incumbent, we have to start our selection procedure. There are so many selection process are there, or types are there. So based on the number of applicant, we have to start our selection process. We are going to study this recruitment and selection process in detail in future units. Then remuneration. Remuneration is a very important aspect under scope of HRM. Remuneration is talking about perks or wages and salary for an employee. Under remuneration, we have a technique called job evaluation or a job pricing. Based on that, what are all the competency and the quality needed to that particular role or a job. Based on that, we have to fix a remuneration on rational basis. We are also going to see this part of job pricing in future unit. Then motivation. The motivation is a very important aspect under scope of HRM. The motivation you already studied in your principles of management itself. There are many theory which is advocated by many authors, which is mainly focused on two factor. One is hygienic factor, another one is a motivational factor. Here we have to concentrate both this hygienic factor and also motivation factor. Then only we can make our employee to perform to the organization at his full effort. Otherwise, we can say we can build a morale. Morale is nothing but promising uninterrupted and high productive worker to the organization. This maintenance is a very important point under scope of HRM. You know, the requirement of human being is unlimited. So we have to satisfy at least their requirement or essential needs and desires. When we are talking about maintenance, we have to look at the welfare measures to be provided to our own workforce or employee. Under welfare measures, we have two broader categories. One is statutory welfare measures and non-statutory welfare measures. Statutory welfare measures very clearly depicted in the Factories Act 1948, and this non-statutory welfare measure is beyond that statutory welfare measures. It is based on the attitude of top management of the organization. So anyhow, this maintenance is plays a vital role in satisfying and retaining employee within the organization. Then industrial relations, which is focusing on the relationship between employee and employer. So we can have a very good or highly productive uninterrupted employee. Under industrial relation, there are statutory regulations or acts are there, like Standing Order Act or your Social Security Act or your Industrial Dispute Act, which is also taken care of your industrial relation. After implementing this HRM concept, we are mostly talking about the building of relationship between employee and employer. So when we are able to build a very good relationship, there is no grievance between each other. So we have to make appropriate grievance redressal mechanism to avoid such kind of strained relationship. After you are unable to address grievances of employee, it will become a conflict. Conflict will become a industrial unrest or a dispute. Dispute leads to strike and lockout. So such kind of situation should be avoided. Otherwise, it will loss to a company by losing a manpower. The final one is prospects. We have to look at prospects of both the organization and employee. Because each and every employees have its own objective, and also, whereas organization also having objective. Here we have to achieve organizational objective by way of providing equal opportunity to each employee in the organization to achieve their own objective. There are 21 dimensions are there, which are employment contract, rules, guide to management action, behavior referent, managerial task, then key relations, speed of decision, management role, management skill, selection, pay, conditions, labor management, job categories and grades, job design, then conflict handling, training and development, focus for attention for interventions, respect for employees, shared interest, finally evolution. So very clearly depict in this slide how this HRM is having a different orientation with personnel management. HRM is having a wider scope in all 21 dimensions than personnel management. Actually, HRM is modern thinking, whereas that personnel management is little traditional thinking. Actually, this is HRD from personnel management. Actually, HRD is one of the concept under HR, which is a very comprehensive concept. This human resources function or HRM is called as a HRM, whereas HRD stands for human resource development. It just I am going to highlight what's a basic difference between these two. This HR is encompassing all. The next one is HR includes HRD and more. HR goes far beyond the traditional personnel function. HR is more proactive and change oriented. HR needs competencies of a different nature from what the traditional personnel function is required. This is the importance of HRM. Actually, why we need this HRM? These are all the very basic function under HRM to be performed in any organization. We have already seen in our scope itself, even though some other additions also is there under HRM. You know that we can already discussed about procurement. Procurement is consists of manpower planning, recruitment and selection. So these three functions are performed to hire the right person for the right job. That is very important. We have to provide a right manpower for a right job. Then if you are giving maintenance, we have already discussed that maintenance is properly performed in any organization, there will be a low attrition rate. Then ensure people do their best, because we have to motivate always people, then only they will contribute more to the organization, and also they will undertake only right things. Time is saved, not conducting useless discussion or interviews. Avoid legal action for any discrimination. There are so many laws are there for protection of interest of labor. Safety laws are not ignored under HRM. There are many safety laws under your Factories Act 1948 pertaining to safety, health and environment. Equity towards employee in relation to salary, because we have to give a appropriate salary. There should not be any discrimination for a same kind of work. Even there should not be any gender discrimination whenever you are fixing a salary. Effective training. So as I told you earlier, this training is very essential to enhance the competency of the worker. Thereby we have to, you know that there is a lot of change in environment. Change is inevitable in terms of job role, or in terms of environment, or in terms of technology. We have to keep abreast our employees' knowledge, skill and attitude pertaining to the changes in both internal and external environment. The training is the only tool which is upgrading the competencies of employee to cope with what are all the changes happened during the period of employment. Avoid unfair labor practices. There are so many statutory provisions are there for rendering appropriate treatment to the labor. Even though beyond that law, nowadays organization, while practicing this HR practice, it is giving much emphasis to human dignity and also human desire. So at any point of time, we should not practice any unfair practices towards our employee. This is a very important first aspect when we are talking about procurement. This is human resource planning. In early, you might have known as manpower planning. Manpower planning or human resource planning is the process of fostering a firm's future demand for and supply of the right type of people in the right number. It's a very essential process under which we have to forecast the number of people required for the organization and also the availability. And also we have to supply such kind of a required manpower at right time, and also we have to provide a quality manpower to the organization in right number. This is a definition given by David DeSano and Robbins. Human resource planning defined as the process by which an organization ensure that it has the right number and kind of people at the right place at the right time, capable of effectively and efficiently completing those tasks that will help the organization achieve its overall objectives. Human resource planning translates the organization's objective and plans into the number of workers needed to meet those objectives. Without a clear-cut planning, estimation of an organization's human resource need is reduced to mere guesswork. There is an important aspect of HRP. It's a very vital for each and every organization. These points are very valid one. Why we have to do appropriate human resource planning? The first one is here we are determining the future personnel needs. Then it is helps in strategic planning, because forecasting of future of the organization, we have to make a strategic planning according to the changes in environment. I am talking about environment, both internal and external, like your supplier or your customer, your competitor, or your other stakeholder like your shareholders or your employee. Based on the changes among these component, we have to plan strategically. So whenever we are making a strategic planning, it also follows with human resource requirement. Then creating high talent personnel, because we have to have always stock with us. How far we can substitute a talented employee whenever we are having a organizational retrenchment, or who is having attrition in the company. That kind of time we have to provide a quality manpower to substitute the position vacant in that. Then we have to follow a global strategies while planning. When we are having a manpower in top level, we can't limited to focus only in local area. You say example in higher position like CEO or vice president or senior vice president, we have to adopt a global strategy where we can source such kind of manpower throughout globe. A foundation of a personnel function. It is a very basic foundation. So whenever you are ascertaining the requirement of a manpower, then only you can further proceed other functions of the human resource management. Then increase investment in human resource. Because the cost is escalated day by day for human resources. So whenever increase in investment, we must be very careful. Actually, whenever we are talking about the cost of production, your major constituent is manpower. So whenever we are planning a manpower, we have to think of a cost. Then resistance to change. So we have to avoid resistance to change through human resource planning. So whenever we know the data while forecasting a manpower, what kind of skill or knowledge or attitude set people are there, is there any change in the environment, whether the existing SK is suitable for adoption of change. If not, we have to go for appropriate training. We have to always advise our workforce to not resist to change. Then factors which is affecting human resource planning in the organization, that is type and strategy of organization. So we have to plan according to the type of organization. Like you say example, it is a global organization or regional wise organization or a nationwide organization. Whether it is a tall organization or it is a drop organization, based on that we have to decide human resource planning. Then organization growth cycle and planning. So whenever our organization grow length and breadth, when our business activities are very higher, you say example, we are going for any diversification or vertical integration, we have also keep in mind while we are going for human resource planning. Then environmental uncertainties, as I told you earlier. So there are so many environment around us, like social environment, cultural environment, your economic environment, your ecological environment, your legal environment. There will be always changes in this environment. We can't appropriately predict such kind of environment. There will be always uncertainty. So that uncertainty also taken into consideration while you are going for human resource planning. Then time horizons, that is very important. So we can't prolong the process of human resource planning. the time limit or timeline should properly planned, or time schedule should be properly planned. Type and quality information of forecasting. So very often we are lacking quality information for forecasting. You know that the data, available data, how far these data are reliable or validated by the organization. That is always difficult. So the quality information of forecasting and the type of forecasting. So whenever we are having a earlier data, we can go for statistical tool for forecasting purpose. So whenever we are not having a earlier data, we have to go for a survey. In such a time, we have to ascertain which type is more suitable for forecasting. And also we have to look at quality information while going for HRP. Then nature of jobs being filled. It is also taken into consideration while we are doing for HRP. Whenever we are going for a lower level of job, no problem. And the manpower available in labor market plenty. So we can go for either local market or a regional market or that statewide market. We can easily source the people for such kind of a position. Whenever we are going for a higher level position, like a top level position, we have to very careful where we have to source, either nationwide or even we can go for a global wide search for such kind of sources. Then outsourcing. Outsourcing is nowadays a very important concept. It is talked by everyone, everywhere in the organization. So whenever we need an employee on limited timeline or for a specific planning or a specific function, there are so many agency outsourced outsource agency for a manpower. We can approach that agency for supplying a manpower to us. This HR demand forecast is very important aspect here. Under this, we are doing the process of estimating the quantity and quality of people required to meet the future need of the organization. Here, there are three forecast technique: ratio, trend analysis, regression analysis, managerial judgments. Here, ratio and regression analysis, statistical analysis, which will be forecasted based on your earlier past year data available. Managerial judgment is based on the expertise available within the organization. You can have appropriate judgment of requirement of manpower in terms of quantity and quality. We have to forecast supply also. This supply forecast determines whether the HR department will be able to procure the required number of personnel. Specifically, supply forecast measures the number of people likely to be available from within and outside an organization. So here, whether we have to go by internal recruitment or we have to go for external recruitment based on the available human resource in our sourcing. This HR supply forecast, as I told you earlier, whether existing human resource is can be filled with vacants can be filled with the existing human resource by providing a career advancement to a particular employee. Again, it is an internal source of supply. Like our own employee can be given opportunity. You say example, if you are having a people in a contract, that contract people may be filled with filled in a regular position. Then if we are not having such a source within the organization, we can go for external sources of supply. So the very basic thing is job analysis while we are talking about HRP. So this job analysis consists of two things. One is job analysis, job specification and job description. This job analysis is defined as collection and aggregation of tasks, duties and responsibility which as a whole are regarded as a regular assignment to individual employees. It's nothing but a role description. Actually, irrespective of employee, we have to give a role description to each job in the organization. This job analysis is defined as a process of studying and collecting information relating to the operations and responsibilities of a specific job. The immediate products of this analysis are job description and job specification. Here, job involves the following function. Well, first one is collecting and recording job information. I already told you that we have to break down that particular job according to the role, what kind of role that job is having to perform. Accordingly, we have to collect or record job information. Then we have to check the job information for accuracy. With our own peer team or expertise are there. So we have to check our cross verification with people for a job accuracy. Then writing job description based on information. So we already have a role clarification or role breakdown here. Based on that, we have to go for a job description. What job description doing is we have to give appropriate the skill, abilities and knowledge needed to perform that particular job by an individual incumbent. Then updating the information from time to time. We have to, because the role are very often changing, as I told you earlier. So we have to keep abreast or update the data for job description. Here we are going to compare both job description and job specification. Job description, already I told you what are all the duties or the location of the job or job summary, the machine tool to be utilized by that particular role, or managerial ability needed for performing that role, what kind of supervision required for performing that role, what is the working condition in sense work environment, then finally is there hazardous anything involved in that particular job. So based on the job description, we have to go for a job specification. To perform this job role, what kind of quality that particular role is required, like education or experience, what kind of training is needed by the incumbent, or initiative by the incumbent. Then what about the physical ability or a physical competency of a particular job role required. Then responsibility, what kind of communication skills, then emotional competency, and so on and so forth. This job description, which is giving a list of job duties, responsibilities, reporting relationship, working condition and supervisory responsibility. This is actually use of job analysis information. We are having a use of this both job description and job specification. First one is we need information for recruiting and selection of a people. Both the job description and job specification is essential while we are going for recruiting and selection. Based on the role description and what are all the qualities required to complete that role is essential while we are going for recruiting and selection. Then performance appraisal. Again, performance appraisal, we need role and role related information, and also the quality of people required to perform that particular job. Another one is salary and wage. So we have a separate technique called a job evaluation, otherwise a job pricing. For doing a job pricing also, we need this job description and job specification statement. Another one is training and development. As I told you earlier, you know that the role description and the quality required for incumbent to perform that role needed for training need analysis. Then only we can identify a gap. After identifying gap only we can go for a training or a development planning. Then career planning also possible through job description, because whenever we are going for in organizational structure a career path, that deciding a career path, we need a job description and job satisfaction statement. Then health and safety requirement in a role, what kind of hazards are involved in that job performance. So we have to look at what safety and health measures to be provided to the performing incumbent. Let us sum up. So with this we can conclude this session. So we have started very simply with what's the meaning of HRM, human resource management. Then we have discussed about the definition given by Edward Flipper pertaining to HRM. Then we have looked at what are all the scope of HRM. Then we have discussed about what's the difference between the human resource management practices and also the so-called personnel management practices. And we have discussed about the difference between HRD and HR, human resource management and human resource development. Followed by, we have discussed about a very important aspect of human resource planning. And finally, we have discussed job analysis, under which we have also discussed job description and job specification. Finally, we have discussed the useful utility of job description and job specification. Thank you very much. We will meet again in another session. Thank you.